Hello and thank you for tuning in to Millennium Movies. In today's video, I'm going to be highlighting some of the most notable moments in the first 3 episodes of Hulu's Castle Rock. And in the second half of the video, I'm going to be talking about all the spoilers that I caught. So before we get into it though, I do want to point out that this video is going to be filled with a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes, please go watch them, do yourself a favor, and then come back here with me, Millennium Movies, and we can talk through this together. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with some of the thing that jumped out to me the most in the beginning of the episode was the warden's suicide. I really thought that his character was going to play a pivotal role in the story, and while it sure looks like he's still going to play an important role throughout the rest of the story, I mean, he's going to do that mostly through voiceover and through perhaps the character that Bill Skarsgård's playing, and from whatever Henry Deaver picks up, because his character kills himself. He commits suicide in a really disturbing way, in that he drives off of a ledge and with a rope over his neck, and he just completely lets the car just sink into the bottom of the lake. And of course, with the rope around his neck, with the speed that he's going down, I guess it just completely just severed his head. It took it off. Like, it's a very disturbing scene to let you know from the get-go that this show is going to be pretty dark, and it's not afraid to go to places like that. So it really left me thinking, because first off, he's such a good actor, the actor who plays him. It really made me think, why would he commit suicide? And that's certainly another question that the characters ask themselves. And it could be possibly for a number of reasons. As he states in a voiceover in episode 2, we find out that Castle Rock has a lot of dark secrets at almost every corner. From his brother committing suicide, jumping off a building during a football game in a mascot outfit, to other accidental deaths that he mentions, like the body near the tracks, or straight up murder even in his own house. There's a lot of negative energy really in and around the whole town of Castle Rock. So, you know, between that and the fact that we later find out that he's found what he believes to be the devil in the form of the boy who's played by Bill Skarsgård, there's a lot of things that are going on with him at this time. And of course, he's getting a lot older in age, so it's a real mystery as to why he commits suicide. But these things, of course, lend themselves to possible reasons as to why he maybe did this. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out it's for different reasons in later episodes, but as of right now, that is all we have. Now, going into the character of Henry Deaver, we find out in his childhood that Alan Pangborn was the one who found him on the frozen lake after he had been gone for apparently 11 days, and his father had already been found, and his father was back home recovering from whatever his wounds were and being out in the cold for so long. So that's certainly pretty tragic stuff going on with him, as we find out later in the series as well. In his childhood, his adoptive father was like the reverend, the priest. So that's a really high status to hold in a small community. People respect him, and of course he adopts a kid of color, and immediately when he dies, everybody blames Henry because he's, socially and racially an outsider to them. So it's easy to blame him. Let me tell you, small town gossip, it exists in reality. Living in small towns in Michigan where the population was no more than 2,000, and living in a small town in Texas, I can tell you that small town gossip, where everybody knows everyone and everything that's going on, it exists. So I'm glad that they paid respects to that. That's something that actually does happen in real life. So going back to that, Henry is a very interesting protagonist. He's kind of got like this almost underdog quality to him, and that it feels like everyone is against him or they're indifferent to him. Yet he still has a tremendous amount of confidence in his abilities as a lawyer, which is something that I really like seeing. And he's really honestly, he's just easy to vote for. I think the actor's doing a phenomenal job with the character of Henry Deaver. We haven't seen his son yet, so hopefully we get to see his son soon. But another thing about Henry is that he represents people who are on death row, and he gets a call from one of the officers at Shawshank to try and help out the boy, because the boy asked for him, and we find out that he asked for him at the specific instructions of the warden before he killed himself. So this is all starting to come together within these first 3 episodes. We're getting a little bit of ties left and right here and there that is going to ultimately lead us down this rabbit hole of Stephen King goodness that I assure you is probably going to be a lot of fun once we get into the later episodes and things start building up towards that climax. But moving on from him, we have Molly Strand, who is a character that I initially believed I was going to dislike based on her decision making and killing Henry's adoptive father. But by the end of episode 3, we see just how complex her character is and all these demons she carries around with her, with being able to feel and know what others feel and think, gives her this almost Professor X Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy like superpowers, but she still feels grounded in reality in a way that you can buy her as a real person in the world of Castle Rock. So I'm really digging her character. She's really a standout of the show, I think. Moving on from her, there's something to be said about Bill Skarsgård's performance thus far, given how little dialogue he has. His body language does a lot for his character, which is really mysterious, and he can have you, sometimes he's unsettling, and sometimes you feel a little bit of sympathy towards him, and sometimes it's mixed all together. So, he's doing a phenomenal job. He's really doing a great job with his character. I really, really, really am most invested in his character just because he holds the most mystery and like the most questions to him. So I find his character to be the most intriguing of the show thus far. But but then again, after his cellmate died of cancer the day after he moved in with him, tells me the warden may be onto something. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say about the plot thus far and the characters in the show. I think, like I said, it's just very good stuff so far. Nothing really to complain about. Moving on to the Easter eggs, though, which there are plenty of. These aren't all the Easter eggs because with Stephen King, I'm 100% positive that I am missing some. But these are just the ones that I caught personally on my first viewing. I haven't gone back to see the episodes again, so these are just some ones that I personally caught myself, and I want to talk about them. So first off, Henry Deaver is from Houston, Texas, and that he was in Houston, Texas before moving to Maine, much like Ben Hanscom from It, who was also from Texas before he moved to Derry, Maine, and became the new kid there, as we all know and love him. So that's something that they share in common. Moving on from that, the client that we first see being put to death for the murder of her husband, which is, by the way, very visceral, very disturbing scene to watch. It's really kind of sad, even though the fact that she's murdered her husband. But her husband, going back to the Easter egg, is Richard Chambers, who is a secondary antagonist in the body and the adaptation in Stand By Me. So, hey, nice ties there. I thought that was really cool. I mean, I'm just a big fan of Stand By Me, so that's a nice little nod to us Stand By Me fans. But during a voiceover from the warden, he also, like I said earlier, about some of the disturbing things that happened in this town, he mentions a body being found near some tracks, which is also, again, a reference to the body in Stand By Me. Moving on from there, something that's also very peculiar is Molly's friend, whose name is Jackie Torrance, which is also the same last name to Danny Torrance from The Shining. Now, is there any correlation between these characters? Are they related in any way? I don't know. I just think that it's kind of funny that they have the same last name, both Stephen King characters. One other thing that I want to talk about is that when Henry is coming back home late at night, he finds Alan digging up his mother's old dog to prove that it's dead, to calm her fear of the dog coming back to life, which sounds an awful lot like Pet Sematary. So, I thought that was pretty cool. But moving on from those actual in-story Easter eggs, I want to move on to the opening credits of the show, which begin in episode 2, not episode 1, which are littered with nods to other Stephen King works. So starting off, we see some of the contents for The Green Mile, which is a great Stephen King story. I recommend you look into that if you don't know what The Green Mile is. But yeah, that's our first Easter egg. The beginning of chapter 19 we see here is from Salem's Lot, which I'm actually about to start reading soon. I just bought it, so I'm very interested in getting to know more about Salem's Lot. So that's a nice little nod. We get a shout out to Derry, Maine. Of course, we got to get a shout out to Derry, Maine, which you can see is circled there. And in this next photo, you can see, of course, the sinister smile of Pennywise in the background, and at the bottom it has his signature catchphrase, they float. And you can also see that Georgie's name is there, and the ironworks gets mentioned too. Going on from there, though, I want to talk about The Shining, which, as you can see here, you got red rum, which is, of course, you all know murder backwards if you've seen The Shining. Another thing here is the number 217, which is in the Shining novel, is the number of the most haunted room in the Overlook Hotel. Now, in the Shining from Stanley Kubrick, it's a different number, but in the novel, it's 217. The next one is upside down. So this one was a little harder to catch, but if you pause it and look at it upside down, it says Misery's Return, which is the name, of course, of the novel that Annie Wilkes forces Paul Sheldon to write for her in Misery. So that was probably my favorite Easter egg in all these opening credits. But lastly, some nice little nods to Cujo, some clippings here, which, it's just nice that, we give that old pup some recognition. And also under that, you can see one final nod to the body and Stand By Me there in that newspaper clipping. So, yeah, these are just all the Easter eggs that I've caught. These are just my thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Castle Rock from Stephen King and Hulu. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm sure that there's some Easter eggs that you caught that I missed. Trust me, I know. Let me know what some of your favorite moments are from the show. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you like this type of content, I've got another Castle Rock Easter eggs video that's all about the Easter eggs that were in the past trailer that leading up to the series premiere. And I've also got a bunch of videos on it and Stranger Things and the new Annabelle movie that's coming out and the new Godzilla movie and all types of horror movie and horror TV show goodness. So if you're into that kind of stuff, consider subscribing to Millennium Movies. But anyways, guys, that's it for me, and I will see you all in the next video.